find your files. All right, now we have just finished up assignment 4. And if we look on our assignments page, after assignment 4, we have the midterm. These are the review topics for the midterm. They're right on our assignments page. Standard minimum resolutions for screen and for print, right? Image rights, public domain, fair use, Creative Commons. Had a whole question today about that in a chapter reading, chapter 2, the only required reading for the semester. Understanding these file formats, JPEG, TIFF, PSD, SVG, PNG, GIF, and AI. And then understanding these abbreviations for memory size, kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte, terabyte. What sizes do they designate? Which ones are larger? Which ones are smaller? Number 5, LZW compression. None of you have heard of LZW compression because I'm going to teach it right now. But it is incredibly important to understanding digital imaging. So LZW compression is what's called a lossless form of compression. So far we have used loss forms of compression to put stuff online. JPEG is a loss form of compression. PNG is a loss form of compression. What does that mean? It means that when you save the data, it shrinks the data by losing some quality of the data, right? So JPEGs do a pattern recognition algorithm that slowly over time, if you keep making changes and saving it as a JPEG each time, will reduce the quality of your pixel information. GIFs are a loss compression format, which takes millions of colors and reduces them to only 256 pixel colors in order to keep its memory down, right? PNG is another type of loss compression format. It saves space, but at a cost. So LZW was a game changer in digital media and digital imaging because LZW allows you to save raster images and not lose any quality and yet save them at about a quarter of the size. And it does it through this algorithm and flowchart, which basically kind of folds the data in on itself. So all it takes is extra time. It takes extra time to save, extra time to open, but is far more memory efficient. Raster versus vector is the 6th topic on the midterm, and then DPI versus PPI. DPI means dots per inch, and it has to do with printing. PPI is pixels per inch, and has to do with the pixel resolution of an image. We're going to be talking about this as well, because what this video is about is how to make your stuff print ready, right? So, when you are making a file print ready, you do not want to go to a loss format. You want to go to your working format, to your high quality, has all the data in it. And so far we've only saved 2 types of working format. We've saved PSD files for raster images, and we've saved AI files for our vector images, right? So let's pick 3 to print, right? It's very easy to start with assignment 4. And I usually ask students to strongly consider printing one of their vectors for this project so you can see how cleanly a vector prints. What did we do for assignment 4 to turn it in, right? We had to rasterize it, but we did that by starting with the vector. So we opened up our working format, our AI format. We saved that as an EPS, which is still a vector format, which does not lose. It's not a loss compression. Then we dragged it into a raster format as a PSD. So I'll open up that PSD. This is the working raster format for our vector, but our vectors are kept as smart objects, which means they're as clean as possible for our resolution. And our resolution is 8 by 10 inches by at least 300 pixels per inch. 8 by 10 is what we're going to format all of our midterm prints to fill, right? So how can I make this print ready? My PNG that I put to Canvas is not print ready because it is a loss compression format. Okay? So how do I make it print ready? Well, for print ready, we're going to turn on the white background just so you can see exactly what it would look like. With the drop shadows and things, that matters. And then what we're going to do is we're going to save this as a different type, right? So we're going to save as, we don't need to say save as a copy. I'm going to save it to the same place, same name, but I'm going to call it, or change its format to TIFF, T-I-F-F. TIFF is what's called an archive format, because TIFF can be opened by multiple types of image files, not just Adobe Photoshop, but it doesn't ever lose any data. Okay? Now I'm going to save it. Now, when I hit save, it's going to give me these TIFF options, which are unique to TIFF. And one of them is if I want to compress it. Now, you might be familiar with compressing files with zip or saving as a JPEG, but what we want to use is LZW compression. LZW compression we only use with TIFF, and we keep all the other defaults. And it will give us this warning. Including layers will increase file size. Say OK. Now I want to verify that at the top it is a TIFF. I don't want it to be my PSD. I don't want to accidentally overwrite my PSD. So to be safe, I'm going to say save a copy. And I'm going to put in front of this, because this is the first one of my 3 I'll print, capital PR dash for print ready. And I'm going to save it to the desktop now as a TIFF. Save. There's one more step I need to make. I want the LZW always. And that is when you are saving as a TIFF in LZW to print, this is what's called an archive. You are not opening this file to make changes. You are opening this file just to print it. So it makes no sense to have multiple layers, especially layers turned off. So the last step for print ready is to go to layer and say flatten image. And that is why TIFF will tell you, do you really want to save this with layers? It will take up more memory. TIFF can support layers, but in general it's not used that way because it's used for an archive format, and layers add a lot of memory. Why don't you want your print files to take up a ton of memory? Because you don't want the printer to ever stop and buffer while it's printing, so that the ink's all dry at a consistent rate. Okay, now I can take that TIFF file, I'm going to leave it right on my desktop, and I'm going to mark it purple. Purple for print ready. So this is my first print ready file. When I open it, it's just high resolution, clean. It's going to print really well at 8 by 10 inches. Now, I can close that in Photoshop. I don't even need to save that TIFF. I already have it saved where I needed it. Now I'm going to say File, New, or say New File within Photoshop. And just like I did for my logo, I'm going to open up a new one that is 8 by 10 by 350. And you can do by 300, but 350 gives it just a little bit extra quality if you need it, if you wanted to zoom in just a little bit. This is going to be my next print ready one. And what one do I want this to be? I want it to be assignment, let's do actually Proving Ground 1, which is my Creaturescape. It's good to put your name in there too. So it's 8 by 10 inches by 350 pixels per inch, white. Okay, why am I doing my Creaturescape? Because this is one of the hardest ones to format for printing. So what do? I go to my Proving Ground 1 folder, and I find my PSD file, not my JPEG, right? My working format, and I open that up. There it is. Okay. Now, I want to move all of those pixels. If this is ready to print, I want to move all of those onto this new format for my print ready. So we know how to do this from animation. I go to my topmost visible layer, I hold down Option, I say Layer Merge Visible. This way these pixels never get compressed at all. I select it all, Command A, Command C to copy it all. Command A, Command C to copy it all. Click on my new print ready, Command V to paste it in. Notice how it's way bigger. That's a good thing. Command T I fit it on. Now notice my Creaturescape, and this could be true of your landscape as well, might not be perfectly 8 by 10. And that means I don't want to stretch it until it is perfectly 8 by 10. Instead, I want to float it. Floating it means I want to give it a little bit of white space all around the image. And so when you float, it will give you these kind of purple lines when you're at the center. I actually like to float it with a little bit of extra space at the bottom, like a Polaroid photo. That's called a weighted bottom. That's because our eye tends to make things drop when we look at them. And again, that black space, that's the black mat around it. So this is just making sure it will look as good as it can at this resolution at 8 by 10 inches for your midterm print. Okay, then I hit return because I shrunk it to fit within this format. Again, it's going to be perfectly clean at that size. There might be little things that aren't great about it. Like this is an artifact that I can clean up really quick using my clone stamp. Use your compositing skills, right? But this would be the one I print, right? And because my clone stamp had a hard edge, that's not too bad. That's fine. All right. So now, before I save it, as my print ready TIFF, I am going to flatten it. Layer, flatten image. And then I'm going to say File, Save As. It's print ready, proving ground 1. It's a TIFF to the desktop, save, and then make sure LZW is chosen. Hit OK. Now I have my second of 3. And you can print more than 3 as well, but you're required to have 3 for your midterm critique. Okay, what should my third one be? If I want to do my animation, this one's really easy because my PSD of my refined storyboard is already formatted. So how would I make this one into a finished print? I would simply go to save it, so File, Save As, and you're going to change it from Photoshop to TIFF, and you're going to put Print Ready in front of it, PR, and I'm going to save it to the desktop. Okay, now with LZW, and it's going to ask me, do I want to keep my layers? No, but I'm going to fix that. So now that I see that it's a TIFF, here, now I can verify I want to flatten it. I do, but let me check the image size first. So this is 30 by 40 by 100 inches, which is the same thing as 8 by 10.667 by 375. 375 is fine as long as it's larger than 300 at 8 by 10. But I need to format it to be 8 by 10. How do I do that? I say image canvas size, and I change the canvas size to 8 by 10. And it will shrink from the top and bottom. And then I clip it. And now that's an 8 by 10 by 375. It's very close to 350. It's fine. You can always have higher resolution. I just wouldn't have higher than 600 because then that's a needless waste of memory for your printer. And now I can flatten it because there's a lot of extra data here from all those other panels that aren't needed. So layer, flatten image. Make sure it's your TIFF, that you're not doing this to your PSD. And then say File, Save As. Make sure it's a TIFF. Make sure it says PR in front of it. And make sure it's LZW. All right, now I have 3 ready to print. So now what do I do? Now I go to the home page of the class. And I go to Assignments. And I scroll down to Proving Ground 3. And I open that up. Okay? You can read through that. That's what we're going to do with these printouts. In order to print them, I need to go to the home page of the class. And I need to go to Links, which I'm not going to show on the public video because it gives us our login to our